I still have nightmares and flashbacks on a regular, everyday basis and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past. My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up about his use at trial. Hey, what's up? It's your girl Nique, and you're tuned in to Nique at Night. And tonight we're going to be going over Cassie Ventura's victim impact statement. Now, when Diddy had his bail hearing after his charges was announced, where they said that he wasn't charged with the RICO, but he was charged with the Mann Act, etc., his attorneys requested for bail. Cassie did a statement to try to keep him behind bars, prevent his bail. But now for sentencing, to get his actual sentence that he's going to be behind bars for, she did another victim impact statement. So we're going to go over that. We're also going to go over her best friend, Deontay Nash. He wrote a victim impact statement as well. I don't know if we're going to get to Capricorn Clark in this video. Depends on how I feel. But there is a lot going on. So if you guys did not see my last video, Diddy is getting hit with a request of 11 years by the government. Now, the government is saying, listen, I know we said originally about 5 to 6 years, but we went back to the drawing board and we believe that he deserves 135 months. They did a sentencing memoranda where they kind of went over all of the things that he did with his time with Cassie, Jane, Capricorn, and all of the instances where he went oops upside somebody's head. They kind of did a big outline of how like he's this dangerous, monstrous person and a person who deserves to be in jail for 11 years. Now, I did a full live video where I read through the sentencing memoranda and all of the bullet points that they were making. So definitely check that out. But this is a quick like excerpt from it where you can see they say that Sean Combs engaged in violence and put others in fear, consistent with these cases and based on the corroborated evidence presented at trial. This court should impose a sentence of no less than 135 months imprisonment. So as I stated, I went over all of that in a prior video. So definitely check it out because I was like, yikes. On a bike, I thought y'all was going for 5 to 7, 5 to 6, or closer to 7. They said, child, we want 11. And I was like, wait a minute. When I started to read through it, I'm like, wait, Cassie and Diddy was together for 11 years. They requested 11 years. I'm like, are they trying to book him into the jail for each year that they feel like he did Cassie wrong? I don't know, but I found that to be interesting. Anyways, let's get to this impact statement because they based a lot of what they had to say on her impact statement and everything that she said that she had to go through and so much more. So also too, make sure you hit the like button. Have you hit the like button? And they have this new thing where you can hype the video. Definitely do that as well. But y'all always can support via Cash App if you guys find my commentary useful to you. $5, $10, whatever you got to spare, honey. So let's get into it. She's going through a lot of things and she's saying, listen, she feels her safety is at risk. Dear Judge Submarinian, I have been in a cycle of thought and then overthought writing this letter to you. If there is one thing I have learned from this experience, it is that victims and survivors will never be safe. Although I can hope for justice and accountability, I have come to not trust anything. I hope that your decision considers the truths at hand that the jury failed to see. Now, one thing I forgot to mention was while I'm reading through this, if you feel like I'm reading it a little too slow or you want to speed things up, in your settings, you can go to your settings and go to the playback speed and you can speed me up, slow me down, whatever works for you. Let's get into it. So she's like, listen, I don't even have hope in the justice system because the jury failed me, honey. They didn't really see what it was really given. Hopefully you hold him accountable. She says, for 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from age 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of use. He groomed me into performing repeated S acts with hired male S workers during multi-day FOs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels, told exactly how to look, and plied with rugs and alcohol, so he can control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion. Before he demanded it all again, SX became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his good graces. I testified that I learned to read Sean Combs' signals, knowing that when he spoke of freak-offs, he was demanding them, and that refusing meant punishment, losing my car, my phone, or worse. He controlled every part of my livelihood and threatened to destroy my reputation by leaking X tapes, a threat he repeated often. His power over me eroded my independence and sense of self until I felt I had no choice but to submit. When he believed I had wronged him or was not sufficiently responsive, he also threatened people around me and those close to me, including my family. I regularly worried that displeasing him meant putting my family and friends' safety at risk. I testified how beyond the threats, Sean Combs frequently used violence to get his way. Over nearly 11 years we were together, Sean Combs would hit me, punch me, stomp on my face, pull my hair, throw my body to the ground and against the wall. The jury saw pictures of bruises on my back, Combs kicking me, and saw the deep gash over my eye he caused when he slammed me into a bed frame. The entire courtroom watched actual footage of Combs kicking and beating me as I tried to run from a FO in 2016. People watched this footage dozens of times, seeing my body thrown to the ground, my hands over my head, curled into a fetal position to shield me from the worst blows. This physical violence caused bruises that makeup artists, paid for by Sean Combs, would cover up, as well as permanent scars all over my body. During my time with Combs, I was in constant state of hypervigilance as I was always anticipating demands for S-acts or otherwise fearing retribution for any perceived slight. My descent into substance use was directly correlated with the increased control over my body, my money, my freedom, and my free will. I used those drugs to push through the horrifying S-acts he demanded and to numb myself to physical pain and emotional turmoil I was constantly in. While the defense attorneys at trial suggested that my time with Combs was akin to a great modern love story, nothing would be further from the truth. Nothing about this story is great, modern, or loving. This was a horrific decade of my life stained by use, violence, forced S, and degradation. I spent the last 7 years of my life slowly rebuilding myself, physically getting clean from the rug abuse Sean Combs forced and encouraged, and mentally understanding and how to live with a seemingly unsurmountable level of trauma. The horrors I endured drove me to have thoughts of self-deletion, ones I almost followed through on. If not for my family intervention and urging that I seek professional care, I have been to rehab and have taken part in dozens of types of therapy to confront, compartmentalize, and cope with the horrific memories of S and emotional abuse I endured for nearly 10 years. While what he did to me is always present, I am slowly learning how to live my life free of the fear and horrors I endured, and in doing so, I am fully devoted to my husband and my children. I still have nightmares and flashbacks on a regular, everyday basis and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past, My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. I have, in fact, moved my family out of the New York area and am keeping as private and quiet as I possibly can because I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up about his use at trial. As much progress as I have made in recovering from his use, I remain very much afraid of what he is capable of and the malice he undoubtedly harbors towards me for having the bravery to tell the truth. Okay, so she's saying, listen, you let him out, it's up for me. Okay, I'm already keeping a low profile because I am scared of him. Let me spend my millions in peace. He did enough to me, period. Now, she says his defense attorneys claim he is a changed man and he wants to mentor users. I know firsthand what real mentorship means, and this disgusts me. He is not being truthful. I know that who he was to me, the manipulator, the aggressor, the abuser, the trafficker, is who he is as a human. He has no interest in changing or becoming better. He will always be the same cruel, power-hungry, manipulative man that he is. When I came out with my allegations in my civil case, he flatly denied them again and again. It was only after actual video footage corroborated the exact words in my civil complaint that he issued an insincere apology on the internet. Thanks to the footage and my testimony, this is also something he will forever be associated with. For over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant, but my experience was real, horrific, and deserves to be considered. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in FOs because of the force and coercion the defendant used against me, I know that is the truth, and his sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence in my lived experience as a victim. Reliving in detail the events and truths described throughout the trial in this letter causes me tremendous emotional pain. I am trying with all that I am to move on. I hope that your sentencing decision reflects the strength it took for the victims of Sean Combs to come forward. I hope that your decision considers the many lives that Sean Combs has upended with his use and control. I thank you for your time and attention, Cassandra Ventura Fine. So this is her letter, and that is what she's saying. What do you guys think about it? Let's move on to the next letter. All right, so this next letter is from Cassie's mom and her dad. They decided to also read a victim impact statement as well, and this is what they had to say. Dear Judge Submaranian, we are writing to you as extremely concerned parents regarding the upcoming sentencing of the defendant referenced above. We have read many online reports that state that months are being suggested for his punishment/sentence as opposed to the many years that we feel he deserves. 11 years is the length of time this horrific nightmare lasted. During that time, our daughter was beaten repeatedly and exposed to harmful and copious amounts of drugs. She was held like a prisoner, kidnapping by the defendant when her face told the story of a beating. She was coerced to perform acts with the strangers/prostitutes for the defendant's own gratification. None of the acts were consensual as there is no consent in a DV relationship. There was always the threat of violence. Everything she did with, for, and because of this defendant was self-preservation. She was, in actual fact, brutalized by the defendant's power and depravity. Our daughter is dealing with the psychological, emotional, as well as physical aftermath of the abuse she endured at the hands of the defendant. She will be left to deal with the trauma of his abuse far beyond a 27-month sentence with time served as suggested by the defense attorneys. We believe the charges that the defendant was convicted are not only federal crimes, but they are also severe violations of human self-worth and freedom. Clearly, a abuse of power coupled with an immense disregard for human life. To sentence lightly would also send a dangerous message. A sentence that is handed down in months instead of years sends a message that such repulsive behavior can happen without meaningful consequence. In closing, we, her parents, urge you to deliver a sentence that appropriately reflects the severity and depravity of the abuse, the breach of trust, and the suffering that our daughter experienced. The justice system must be a place where the voices of those who have endured and physical abuse are heard, believed, and honored with appropriate accountability. Thank you for your time and your consideration. Sincerely, Regina and Roderick Ventura. They are Cassie's parents. Now, let's go to the next letter. All right, so this letter comes from a guy by the name of Deontay Nash. He testified in the trial, and he was one of Cassie's closest friends. He talked about an encounter where he had to tussle with Diddy and confront him about the things that was going on with Cassie. And if you guys remember, the letter that Carisha sent in when she gave her support and she said, "Judge, this is a good man," and she ended that with the line that this was a good man. Deontay Nash ended his letter with, "This is not a good man." Okay, let's get into his letter and see what he has to say. Now it says, "Dear Judge Submaranian, thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts. I write with great respect for the court and the difficult decisions it must weigh. Mr. Combs' attempt to secure release before his scheduled sentencing hearing demonstrates a troubling lack of accountability and a continued pattern of manipulation. The charges he was convicted of include violations of the Mann Act are not minor. They reflect serious, deeply disturbing conduct involving the coercion and transportation of individuals for illegal activity. The thought that Mr. Combs does not believe he deserves jail time is both disturbing and frightening. It underscores the depth of his lack of accountability and the danger he poses. Someone who refuses to acknowledge the harm they have caused, who believes they are above the law, demonstrates the same pattern of manipulation and abuse that has impacted so many lives. The fact that Mr. Combs believes that because he harmed people he claimed to love or called friends, he somehow deserves leniency is outrageous. That sense of entitlement makes his actions even more sickening. Yet, Mr. Combs continues to treat this process as negotiable, as though he is merely managing a legal inconvenience rather than confronting the consequences of federal crimes. His efforts to preempt the court's process show not only a lack of respect for the justice system, but also a refusal to acknowledge the severity of his actions. At one point, there was public indication that Mr. Combs intended to seek professional or mental health treatment. Whether that ever occurred remains unclear. What is clear, however, is that there has been no visible movement towards accountability. Rather than allow the legal process to proceed in good faith, he has focused on tactical maneuvers meant to bypass scrutiny and maintain control, soliciting letters of support, crafting PR statements, and attempting to manipulate public sentiment. His plan to escape accountability has been in motion from the very start. His violence has not been limited to private encounters. From orchestrated FOs to assaults on staff and strangers, his behavior has left a long trail of victims, many of whom still live in fear. Some of the worst abuse was inflicted on people he claimed to love. This is not the story of one or two isolated incidents. This is the story of hundreds, possibly thousands of people whose lives have been scarred by his unchecked power and brutality. Mr. Combs must also refrain from comparing his crimes to those of others. His conduct stands on its own and has set a new legal and cultural precedent. This is not about relative wrongdoing. It is about individual accountability for a decades-long pattern of abuse. There are many reasons why Mr. Combs should serve an appropriate sentence. Okay, and then he lists these bullet points. Psychological impact on victims. His release would re traumatize survivors, many of whom remain in hiding for their safety. The court has a duty to uphold justice and protect those speaking out. Influence over potential co conspirators. Release would allow him to coordinate with uncharged associates to retaliate or construct false narratives. No remorse or accountability. To date, he has shown no genuine remorse, only carefully crafted statements issued under legal pressure. This lack of accountability should weigh heavily against any request for release. Public safety concerns. The allegations include violent physical abuse, death threats, and intimidation. His release would endanger survivors and the public at large. Beyond legal concerns, I want the court to understand the very real lived impact of Mr. Combs' abuse. This man harassed everyone around us, including friends and business associates, so relentlessly that people no longer wanted to work with us or even spend time with us. We were ashamed to leave the house. The balcony he hung Banna from, a place that once offered peace, became a sight of terror. The home he held me in against my will was my own. The keys and the phone he stole were possessions I earned through years of hard work. He robbed me not only of safety, but of dignity. His reach was suffocating. He has caused lasting damage to the lives and careers of nearly everyone in his inner circle, past, present, and likely future. Some complied willingly, many more felt coerced. He taunted victims through songs that contradicted the truth, creating false narratives that could never safely be challenged because of the fear he instilled. He pursued Cassie through her friends despite both of us telling him she wanted no contact, and tried to manipulate situations by offering favors if I helped deliver her to him. He has openly declared to his victims that he does not respect or care about the legal system. If he does not respect the court should not extend him any leniency. I do this not just for myself, but for every mother, father, child, grandparent, sister, brother, boyfriend, husband, wife, friend, artist, intern, employee, and assistant who sacrificed for a man who only abused them in return. I have watched people take trains, move across the country, leave their families, and dedicate themselves fully only to be mistreated, exploited, and silenced. Some of these same people have even left the entertainment industry entirely because of his actions. This issue is not only about violence, but also secrecy. Many of us were abused precisely because Mr. Combs wanted us to hold his secrets, to maintain his reputation. The truth is, Mr. Combs never respected those who worked closest with him. He rummaged through our lives while publicly pretending to suffer through hard times. He refuses to take responsibility privately or publicly. The abuse was deliberate. The control was relentless. The damage is lasting. The same ailments Mr. Combs now claims as an excuse are the very ones he has carried with him throughout his years of torturing, conducting business, and abusing those around him. They never stop him from being violent, abusive, or intoxicated when left to his own devices. They should not serve as an excuse now. True change cannot exist without acknowledging the harm one has caused, claiming to have changed while continuing to defend the very behavior that led to incarceration is not accountability, it's avoidance. Mr. Combs repeatedly shifts between denying responsibility, seeking sympathy, and reshaping the narrative to suit his immediate needs. Real transformation is consistent, honest, and uncomfortable. It does not depend on who is watching or what outcome is desired. Until he confronts his actions as wrong and takes full responsibility, any claim of change is hollow. I do not expect him to be in jail forever, but I am praying for a sentence that allows the victims to heal and encourages Mr. Combs to genuinely change. For all of these reasons, I respectfully urge the court to deny his request for early release and to deny his 14-month suggestion. He has been fighting the truth for the past year. And this ongoing denial is causing additional harm to the mental well being of the victims. Survivors deserve safety. The public deserves protection. And justice demands accountability. Judge, this is not a good man. Thank you so much for your time. Your consideration means a great deal. Blah, 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 blah. Respectfully, Deontay Nash. Okay? He said, this is not a good man, Savannah. Period.